A is for Appalachia, the alphabet book of Appalachian heritage. Written by Linda Hager Pack, illustrated by Pat Banks. Published by the University Press of Kentucky. Read by Miss Tyler. A is for Appalachia. Appalachia can be defined as a place, a people, and a way of life. The Appalachian Mountains go from New York to Alabama. In this book, we will visit only the area known as the Southern Appalachian Mountains. B is for baskets. Created by hand and fashioned by wit, the basket was as beautiful as it was useful. If something needed to be carried, gathered, or stored, there was a basket for the job. C is for coal. Some mountain folk made a living by mining coal from deep inside the earth. The work was hard and dangerous. C is also for corn. Corn was the main crop in the mountains, and every part of the plant was put to good use. D is for dulcimer. This instrument has been in the Appalachian Mountains for a very long time. It was held on the lap. Its name means sweet music. E is for the expressions. Mountain speech was colorful and very functional. People sprinkled their words with R's. Window was winder. Potato was tater. The Appalachians didn't pronounce the G in endings. Reading was a readin'. Coming was a comin'. F is for the farmstead. The early Appalachian people built their homes with logs and stones. G is for ghost stories. Like most children, mountain young'uns enjoyed sitting around a fire or a kerosene lamp and being frightened by the telling of haint tales. Some believed the stories about boogers and haints, but most folks just had a good time sharing the tales that had been passed down for generations in their families. H is for happenings. Working hours were from sun-up to sundown, but work wasn't all that happened in the mountains. Families got together for things like molasses making and corn shucking. I is for iron. Iron was essential in the lives of the early Appalachians. The blacksmith forged iron by heating it and then hammering it into the form he needed. J is for the clever boy in the Jack Tales. A favorite story hero was a brave boy named Jack. He had 2 brothers and was always outsmarting a giant. Best of all, Jack was a country boy, just like the children who loved hearing about him. K is for knife. With knife in hand and using his imagination, a mountain man could whittle something out of just about any piece of wood. L is for letter edged in black. People living outside the mountains were given the news of a death in a letter edged in black. M is for mountain music. Music kept the beat of life's rhythm in the mountains. Morning, noon, and night there was music. N is for Native Appalachians. The first people to settle in the Appalachian Mountains were the Cherokee. They were farmers, and their main crops were the three sisters: corn, beans, and squash. O is for one-room school. School in the mountains began at the end of harvest and ended in time for spring planting. Students were often called scholars. Scholars sat on wooden benches and held black slates in their laps for writing and figuring. P is for the people. The people who settled in the Appalachian Mountains were largely a mixture of Native Americans from the Cherokee tribe and immigrants who had come to this country from Scotland, Ireland, Germany, and England. Q is for quilts. Quilts were made for the practical purpose of keeping the early settlers warm, but mountain women had a talent for taking scraps of fabric and turning them into beautiful works of art. R is for a raisin. A mountain raisin was a gathering of families to raise or build a house or a barn, and sometimes even a school. Trees were cut and logs were hauled in on sleds pulled by mules. Everyone worked. S is for spinning and weaving. The spinning wheel and the loom were used by women to make clothing for their families. Nothing could keep the feet warmer than a good pair of wool socks. T is for toys. Boys were partial to carrying slingshots, and girls enjoyed dolls. Marbles were molded from colored clay, and an old button on a string could make a marvelous noise. U is for the Undertaker. Cemeteries dot the hillsides of the Appalachian Mountains, reminding us that death was very much a part of Appalachian life. V is for vegetable garden. Beans were a favorite vegetable. They were strung by needle on a thread and hung to dry so they could be eaten in cold weather. W is for water. Water was nature's ultimate gift to the early settlers and their much-loved mountains. X is for Xmas, or Christmas. Christmas in the mountains was heartfelt, homemade, and gathered from the skirts of Mother Nature. Early Christians used the X as a symbol to represent their Christian identity. Y is for Yarb Doctor. Yarb was a mountain word for herb. The Yarb Doctor was someone skilled in using herbs and plants to heal. Z is for Zodiac. Mountain farmers believed that the moon's phases and its place in the zodiac affected activities here on Earth. Using the Farmer's Almanac, they cleared their fields, built their homes, planted their seeds, and harvested their crops by the sign. Adapted text and cropped images for this read-aloud have been retrieved from A is for Appalachia, written by Linda Hager Pack, illustrated by Pat Banks, published by the University Press of Kentucky in 2009.